I never fully understood how we are connected to time. The only thing I am sure of is that this connection is inextricable. Is time a part of our nature, a space in which we live, or a force through which we move? Physically, time is said to not exist, but we understand that events in our lives occur in a certain order. One thing happens earlier, another later. To the average person, if not to philosophers, the cause and effect relationship seems obvious. One event can lead to another. Isn't that what Newton's law of inertia is all about? Even if time is linear, there are many paths open to us, many branches, many possibilities that are impossible to explore all of them. I try to keep this in mind, simplifying so as not to drown in complexity. I'm not trying to manage time, I'm trying to manage myself. But I still don't understand exactly what circumstances prompted me to kill. Was it because I met Jim, or because she fell in love with two men? At that moment, it didn't seem like something scary. I fell in love with Rob at first, but we broke up and went our separate ways. Then Rob returned and both men became part of my life again. What made me fall in love with Rob again changed me. I became just a part of something bigger. Without him, I felt incomplete. Rob and I were so similar. We were one, and without him, I was only half. When life separated me and Rob, I met another man, Jim. He was not like me, completely different. I loved him too, even rather idolized him. He gave me his all, but I never felt like I was a part of him. He was something great and powerful that was entrusted to me for a time. He was taller than me. He was a powerful ring, and I was just a temporary guardian. I'm scared to look into that way of thinking to find the answer. Didn't the very thought of temporality lead to its embodiment? If I considered myself only a temporary part of his life, did I not make this temporary reality? Because Jim loved me with all his being, and he was so much more than me. Did I destroy it to preserve myself instead of becoming a part of it? In the end, I did him unspeakable harm. I didn't want this. I deceived him, I cheated on him, and then I deprived him of so much. I knew it was our last night of love, but he didn't. I accidentally didn't leave him even this last memory, didn't give him a goodbye kiss or a last hug. He was forced to go back through his hazy memories to find something he didn't know he should have kept while this was happening. I am a woman who loves, and I'm a liar. I knew this even before the denouement, and I knew that revealing this simple, terrible truth would be nothing less than the murder of a good man. I hoped to avoid this and put off talking to Jim, deluding myself that I could soften the blow. I completely failed. I only made everything worse. You would think that loving the man who gave me everything including mercy and forgiveness, the man who helped me walk again, should have made me committed to him forever. One would think that loving such a man would exclude the possibility of his betrayal, not to mention the destruction of his life. Jim loved me so much that he hurt me, let me suffer so I could get my legs back. Every painful expression on my face was a spear in his heart, but he allowed me to suffer because he loved me. He hated it, but he did it. My current husband and first love, Rob, would have acted differently. He would have surrounded me with care, and at best, I would still be using a shopping cart to get around. Rob and I don't complement each other, we enhance each other. Our strengths shine, our weaknesses are pathetic. We are one, we are made of the same material. And that's why I had to tell the heroic man who had given me his all, my ex-husband and second love, Jim, that I didn't love him enough to not cheat on him. Even worse, I didn't love him enough to stay with him. And the worst thing was that I didn't love him enough to leave him alone, betrayed, bleeding. The contrast is stark. My pain killed him, and he took my pain upon himself to allow me to walk again. I repaid his love with betrayal, throwing him into the abyss. I hurt him to get rid of guilt and sadness. I condemned him to loneliness in order to find his place. To do the right thing by heart, I had to do the right thing by Jim. Realizing my choice, I suddenly saw the depth of my betrayal. This became the only reality that filled my lungs, preventing me from breathing. I couldn't bear to live with this, and I hastened Jim's fate, forcing myself to believe that it would be better this way for him. But this made everything even worse, much worse than I could have imagined. I didn't expect the pain to remain. I did not expect that the love that flowed in his veins would turn into a poison that torments him to this day. Now another person is paying for my happiness, and his suffering turned out to be much worse than mine. I don't understand how I could do this to Jim. I think I thought I could send Jim to hell because I knew it wouldn't corrupt him. No, hell won't corrupt him, but it will irritate and torment him, cutting him into pieces every minute of every day until it finally forces him to give up. Then Jim will die professing the love for me that hell could not burn away, the love that I turned into poison running through his veins. Unless a miracle happens, Jim will probably die whispering my name. Considering how much Jim loved me, and that despite everything, I really love him, this seems like the worst possible twist of fate. How could a person who understood love so well and felt it so deeply be completely abandoned by it? It seems right that I should lose the love of this kind man. But I don't want him to be deprived of love. However, his continued love for the woman who betrayed and destroyed him seems perverse. I know that I don't deserve his love, but if he stops loving me, there will be no more love left in his life at all. This is an injustice even more incomprehensible than the way time allows us to weave together the events of our lives, and how we can unravel the fabric of another person's life. Because of Rob, I still end every day with a smile, but Jim is following me. What does it feel like for a broken heart to reach out for some kind of touch when there is no love nearby to feel? Jim's house. Christmas Eve, a magical night. Bright and warm, a physical distillation of happy dreams. Although for those with an unlucky home, demons, or loneliness, it is an especially cold, dark night, filled with a slow, ominous foreboding, increasingly seeking new ways to penetrate, consume, seize, and dominate. The snow outside the window either sparkled with hope, like a blank canvas awaiting a great work of art, or it was a wasteland, dead, barren, and lifeless. Jim's thoughts went back to the previous 2 Christmas Eves. The first year, he was mostly numb. He threw himself into his work. His employees became his salvation. They knew him and cared about him. Jim was not just an employer for them, he was their mentor. Their shock at Jim's divorce was second only to Jim himself. They all knew Addie, had been to her and Jim's house for summer dinners, and Addie often came into the office. It was only in retrospect that they realized she had stopped coming. They wondered if it was out of guilt or if she was using this time to date the person she was hiding in the shadows. They shook their heads, as did Jim. Addie. She couldn't do that. Jim and Addie were the perfect couple. They loved each other so much. This is surrealism. There must be some kind of misunderstanding here. A few brave souls decided to visit Jim and Addie at home. There must be some mistake here. This couple has done so much for everyone in the office that they just had to lend a helping hand. Maybe they can find a way for Jim and Addie to make things right. Their shock was complete when the door opened, and it became clear Jim had not just left, he had already been replaced. The usurper answered their knock. This man now lives here. He truly took Jim's place. This scene played out twice. The first time, one of Jim's employees had to be led away from the door by his wife so that he would not attack Rob with his fists. When Addie heard the noise, she ran out into the street with a tear-stained face to help the unfortunate faithful man. She helped his wife get him into the car, admitting her guilt, tearfully explaining that it was all her fault, and then asking desperately about Jim. The man looked up at her, full of pain and rage. "He's an empty shell. Are you satisfied now?" The man fell silent, his eyes narrowed into angry slits. He nodded towards the house, clearly intending to say about the man who now lived there. "Are you happy with him, Addie? Why did you miss Jim?" His wife was about to reproach him, but froze at the last question. She looked at Addie curiously. Addie shook her head, turning painfully pale. "Rob is the first man I ever loved. I thought I had lost him years before I met Jim. Jim is the best person I have ever known. Even though I don't deserve him, I never wanted to hurt him. Jim is stalking me now." Addie didn't try to hide the tears rolling down her cheeks. "I'm sorry. I'm so terribly sorry." She slowly turned back to the house she knew Jim had bought for her. The second visit followed the same scenario, but the reaction was even worse. Two employees, having heard about the incident from their colleagues, could not believe what happened to Addie and Jim. They had to try to fix everything. Once again, Rob opened the door. The women froze at the sight of another man on the threshold of Jim and Addie's house. Addie appeared instantly and saw their eyes fixate on her. Just for a moment, just long enough to absorb what was happening, and one of the women suddenly vomited right on the glass door. When she raised her head, her expression was as if Addie had grown horns and a tail. The second looked at Addie as if she had just caught her mother cheating on her father, not so much angry as deeply shocked. She looked away, and what had once been admiration died along with part of her faith in people. Helping her friend up, she led her back to the car. The visit was over. After that, none of Jim's employees came again. It seemed that Addie was now living large with a new man who was providing for her after she kicked her husband out of the house he bought for her. To Jim's employees, Addie was now just a distant memory. Someone needed to be taken care of Jim. Addie obviously took excellent care of herself. After the second unsuccessful intervention attempt, the office became quieter. Now no one could deny that Addie had indeed done what the rumors said. Addie replaced Jim and brought in his replacement with alarming efficiency. She said she loved a new man. The seemingly unshakable best couple in the world broke up. What about their mentor and surrogate father? Where did Jim live now that Mom had taken a lover? There was a depressing atmosphere in the office. Nobody knew how to properly talk to Jim about this. Even in his prostration, Jim noticed everything. He heard stories of 2 visits to Addie. Hearing the story of the second, he nodded grimly and left the office to address the team. When everyone had gathered, he confirmed that the rumors were true. Addie left him. Moreover, she cheated on him for more than a year before her accident. This confession left everyone speechless. Having outlined the past, Jim tried to outline the future. Our office has always been something more than just a place of work. You made it special. Family, in a sense. I don't know what would have become of me without you. I have found strength in having you here. I didn't talk about divorce before because I simply wasn't ready. Apart from the facts themselves, I have nothing to say yet. Perhaps you have only seen me in a depressed state. I can't tell you how far I could have fallen if it weren't for you. Don't doubt it for a second, you have become my support. Jim looked around the team. Everyone listened attentively, but their own depression made it difficult to understand how to help him. It was obvious that he had not convinced them that many had already helped him. If I look depressed, don't let it upset you. Just know that you may have saved my life. I didn't say it, but I should have. I'm not myself, and I don't know what part of myself I will be able to become again, what kind of person I will be when I can stand on my feet again. But whatever I become, it will be thanks to you. I will get back on my feet thanks to you. Now I need your support, and I will rely on it. You all are doing a great job. I'm still here to help you, but now I want each of you to take on a little more than before. You considered this place yours, so make it yours even more. Come to me with questions, keep me involved, but act freely. Catch me on your way, and when I can go ahead again, I will go. If you need something, I won't let you down. He paused. I love you guys. You know that. Now that all the bad things have been said out loud. He frowned. I know some of you are hurt by Addie's actions. I can't spare her the consequences, but I can say one thing. She didn't leave because of money or selfishness. She loved Rob long before she met me. I never knew about him. His wife died. His parents, too. Jim clenched his teeth. So he came back to find Addie. It turned out that he was not only her first love, but also her truest one. She left me because love demanded it. As much as I hate it, I respect her choice. And you should too. He fell silent again. Then, with a wry smile, he added, I think divorce is always the hardest for children. You all knew my wife. I won't be offended if you continue to communicate with her or care for her. She didn't know you the way I do. I chose each of you personally, but she knew some of you very well. Addie and I became parents to some of you. She had to leave me, but her love for you has not changed. You don't have to treat her badly because you're loyal to me. If you feel betrayed not only as colleagues, but as a family, know that she didn't mean to betray you. So don't think that she rejected you just because she didn't choose me. Jim ran his hand through his hair, smiled, and concluded, "Keep working." Then he turned around and went into his office, leaving the door open as a sign of support and trust. In the following months, his employees, like children wanting to support their father, began to come into his office more often, sometimes to ask how he preferred to do something, sometimes to report on the work they had done. They always discussed specifications and strategies with him, and Jim worked the same way as before. His attention to detail and infectious enthusiasm are still there, even if they have become muted. They came in to cheer him on, but each time they came out feeling inspired. In conversations among themselves, they noted, despite the arrow in his chest, Jim continues to take care of them. He was invited to family dinners. More often than not, he refused, explaining that family is sacred and its time must be protected. But the bravest ones answered, "This is exactly what we do when we call you. The family doesn't leave on its own." Jim nodded gratefully. Several times he agreed to come. He always had a good time, but he never ceased to feel the moment when he turned from a guest into an outsider. Then he said that his mission was completed, warmly hugged everyone and left. He invariably charmed the spouses and children of his colleagues, leaving them bewildered. Poor Jim. What was Addie even thinking? Although he encouraged them to stay in touch with Addie, especially those who felt betrayed, none of them needed it. If Addie could do without Jim, then they could do without her. Addie picked the worst time to get a divorce 2 weeks before Thanksgiving and less than 2 months before Christmas. Jim spent the first nights after their confrontation with Addie and Rob in a nice hotel. Realizing that he didn't have the strength to look for an apartment, he checked into an extended stay hotel near work. He hid his location, fearing gossip and not being ready to discuss his failed marriage. He spent Thanksgiving in his hotel room pretending to watch football. Realizing his mistake, he decided to treat himself for Christmas and New Year and booked a room in a good hotel to eat in a restaurant among happy people. But he soon realized life should not be sterile. So he went further for Christmas. He went to the Caribbean, to a luxury resort. He planned to stay there until the new year so that his colleagues would not worry about him. The change of scenery helped, and the warmth was a nice bonus. However, as Christmas approached, the lonely guests looked increasingly sad. Jim preferred the company of happy couples. They were as natural a part of the world as the tropical beauties around him. Everyone enjoyed each other's company during days spent on the water or at the beach. In the evenings, Jim left the couples alone, preferring instead resort shows and performances on the beach. When he was ready, he returned to his room, where a good bottle of scotch was waiting for him. Jim sat on the balcony, sipping this excellent elixir, unable to sleep. The Caribbean Sea was beautiful, as if inviting him to share its grandeur. Late on Christmas Eve, Jim found his escape by streaming Marx Brothers movies. Although he couldn't call it a pleasant evening, he managed to survive the night. Early in the morning, suffering from a hangover, he crawled to the early Christmas buffet, dreaming of taking the entire coffee bar with him. That New Year, which he celebrated at the same resort hotel, was different. He was angry with himself for rejecting the whole world on Christmas Eve. He didn't want to impose himself on any couples, but he could have just walked along the beach. He could have stayed at the show, because after he left it lasted for several more hours. Jim decided that on New Year's Day he would not allow himself to escape. Even figuratively, the resort had a wonderful coastline. But fortunately, there were no sidewalks there at all. By 10 o'clock in the evening, lonely and pathetic individuals had already shown themselves, and Jim avoided them. To his surprise, he discovered many happy singles, people who simply did not have a partner. He found a few people he liked, and even more people found him a great opportunity to get to know each other. One particular woman seemed particularly friendly and confident to him. She spent most of the evening with Jim. He told her honestly that it wasn't his choice to be alone, but he didn't go into detail. She promised that she would persuade him to leave early, saying, "Oh, don't worry. I won't let the balls fall all night, and certainly not at midnight." Jim repeated that he was lonely and could not imagine himself with someone, even with such a charming woman like her. His polite refusal did not deter her at first. But over time, she realized that he was serious. She tried to seduce him again, and then said sadly, "The fact that you are alone today is definitely not my fault. I intend to celebrate the new year in a big way. I need time to find a worthy partner. Sorry, Jim, you were more than worthy. I feel a spark that could lead to something more than just the best new year of your life." She winked at him, kissed him on the cheek, and left him alone with his demons. Jim wandered along the beautiful tropical beach, oblivious to the arrival of the new year. He was more collected, although not because he had solved his problems. He couldn't solve them. He was alone not by choice, but by Eddie's desire. He simply accepted this fact. When Jim returned home, he seemed partially renewed. He finally stood firmly on his feet again, although his step was still unsteady. He saw how life continued around him, and openly rejoiced at this, although he understood that it continued for others, but not for him. Jim was still distant and lonely, but he became more attentive and aware. He accepted his fate. She no longer pulled him down. It was simply a fact. Jim saw himself as a Canada goose choosing a mate for life. He found his one, but lost it. And here's the rub. Usually a goose that has lost its mate continues on its way alone, as if for two. This thought always unsettled Jim, causing him to sit heavily in his chair and gasp for air. After all, Eddie's life did not end. She didn't stay in his spirit. Addie was still out there in the world, traveling and discovering new things just without him. She threw it away because she found someone else. Jim could not go through life for two, could not draw strength from the fact that he was doing it for Eddie's sake. This realization took his breath away every time, leaving him empty and feeling worthless. Eddie didn't want him. He rubbed the back of his head with his hand. How could this be? His heart began to beat wildly as he fought back tears. He knew he had to get up and move on. Did he want this? No. Did it seem worthwhile? No. But damn it, he went anyway. The third Thanksgiving arrived, bringing with it nothing to be grateful for except the past. Jim survived it better than the previous two, but he still didn't feel anything truly meaningful, and a third Christmas without love loomed ahead. Should he have gone on a trip again and found a random partner? Maybe this time we shouldn't retreat, or try to contact the one from last year. But none of this attracted him. Jim distinguished between a genuine feeling and a passing hobby. He knew what it was like to have both. The present, once lost, poisoned everything else. He's heard rumors that Eddie is furious that he's staying in long-term hotels instead of renting an apartment. Jim shrugged off her concerns indifferently, knowing that she would have been just as outraged if he lived in an apartment instead of a house. Jim was coping with the destruction of the life he loved, and Eddie was coping with the guilt of destroying it. But most importantly, their lives were now unequal. She lived in their common house. She threw out their bed at Jim's request. At least Rob, her new husband, never slept in the old bed. Jim had his own take on the bedroom makeover. She painted the walls, bought a new bed, a new man, and most importantly, a new person in your heart. She replaced him in everything. It was a complete redesign. And now Eddie saw she had everything as before, just without Jim. She even had a shiny new husband. What about Jim? He didn't even have a mattress. The thought of him, alone, in a long-stay hotel, painted a picture in her mind of a desperate homeless man. Jim was a man who had nowhere else to go. And now another lived in his house, enjoying his former life in all its fullness. Addie couldn't believe how terrible it was for Jim to love her. But over the past year, Jim has changed a few things. He found a new home. Slowly but surely he filled it with things, made it more comfortable, surviving his second lonely winter. But an empty house always feels especially lonely on Christmas Eve. Jim wasn't one to be easily caught off guard, but his head snapped around when the doorbell rang. Who could it be? But the empty house was the loneliest thing on Christmas Eve. Jim was not a man who was easily caught off guard, but his head snapped towards the door when he heard the bell ring. Who could it be? Carols are a thing of the past. and the weather was terrible. Snow and strong winds that drove up snowdrifts. His house was on the outskirts of town, next to a state park, at the very end of the trail. It wasn't too difficult to get to, but it wasn't in the way of anywhere else. No one could get here just by passing by. Neighbors had long realized that, despite his friendliness, Jim was incurably lonely. They would hardly have visited him, especially on such a stormy evening. Like many others who heard his story, they found it both incredible and heartbreaking, freezing with open mouths and blank stares. How could fate have turned out so that even with all the trump cards in his hands, Jim lost everything? How could he put so much more into this than his opponent and still lose? Damn it, how could there even be something like a rivalry if it was about true love? This made us doubt its very nature. It was obvious that Jim was no longer the same person he used to be. He remained successful, even more successful than before, because he now had no distractions other than work. But even after a year of living in their neighborhood, neighbors couldn't help but wonder what important part of him was missing. Jim insisted that he was quite comfortable alone, and this was convincing, because even when in company, he looked lonely. Everyone understood. He was not sad or indifferent by nature. There was simply a certain restlessness in him, something lost, something haunting him. He was kind and sympathetic, but at the same time he disturbed people with his appearance. He was not offended when his neighbors gradually stopped inviting him to meetings. It was better this way. He understood. So who could come to him on Christmas Eve? Jim opened the door and saw a trembling female figure whom he had not seen for many years. Although no, that was not entirely true. She occasionally contacted him, always sad that he had not moved on after the breakup. What did she want from him? She understood his situation, but why did it hurt her so much? After all, fate was already predetermined. Jim resigned himself. Why couldn't she come to terms with it? He immediately realized that something was wrong with her. She was trembling not only from the cold, but also from something else. But the cold also took its toll. It was too harsh for her. There was no car nearby. Did she come on foot? She was completely covered in snow. How long did it take her to get here? Jim looked down at her feet. Her boots were completely unsuitable for this weather and were covered with a monstrous amount of snow. How far did she go? Jim had an innate desire to help, which in recent years has found an outlet in his successful business. Victory after victory, but he felt joy from them only for others and not for himself. And now a woman from his past stood in front of him, and it seemed like she needed help. Jim didn't hesitate for a second. He reached out and touched her shoulder for support, and for a moment he thought she was going to press her cheek to his hand. "Carol, what's happened? You're crying." Jim quickly pulled her into the house, slamming the door, cutting her off from the evil wind that mercilessly tormented her. "Carol, darling, you're completely cold. You're in a terrible state. What happened?" She shuddered at his first words, then simply looked into his eyes, and after his last words, she lowered her gaze. "Jim, you are the most sincere person I have ever met, but the world punished you for it. Jim, I'm not as beautiful as your ex, but I'm real, and no one needs me anyway. I'm so lonely it's tearing me in half." Yes, yes. Jim didn't understand what she was talking about. She was shaking, not only from the cold, but also from fear. "So, Jim, I thought that if anyone could understand, it would be you. Why you're not going anywhere, are you?" It wasn't a question, rather a sad statement, almost an accusation. "You're alone at Christmas, taking your punishment after the world cast you out, right? Your colleagues and employees love you. They say that you are the best. You do everything for them, but you don't let them do anything for you. You refuse all their invitations on these family days." Jim still didn't understand why Carol had come, but he tried to piece together her words as he unbuttoned her coat. It was completely covered with snow, which soaked it through. He pulled the clothes off her shoulders and saw that she was completely wet. Carol just stood there trembling, as if transfixed by his presence. Jim quickly took his heavy coat off the rack and wrapped it around her. She didn't even react, not even when he knelt down to untie her boots, digging the laces out of the icy snow. Carol leaned against the door as he freed her feet from their icy prison. She seemed to notice only himself and his apparent imprisonment. As he was bent over her feet, he felt her fingers run through his hair and then instantly jerk away, as if in panic. Jim couldn't believe how cold her feet were. They started to turn blue. He spoke, trying to remain calm as he examined them. "It's just as you said, Carol. These special days are meant for families and should not be marred by the presence of strangers. Relatives wait for this time all year." He hoped that she would understand that he was talking about the families of the people she mentioned, and not implying that she should leave and throw herself into the snow again. Her words were filled with despair, almost hysterical. "But Jim, we have nowhere to go. I think I could be good company. I'm sincere. Jim, you don't have to be a family to share this special day together. We could just be close, knowing that there is someone who cares about us." She froze, looking at him strangely. "Jim, you know that there are people who care about you. Your employees. Many are in the city. And others too. Even Eddie's parents still love you, but you protect them by avoiding their presence. Don't you understand, Jim? You are alone by choice." She paused again, as if deciding whether to speak further. "I don't even have that choice. Jim, I promise you won't betray your love if you don't lock yourself away alone. What do you say?" Jim began vigorously rubbing Carol's legs. He thought that his side of the conversation gave him time to understand what was happening. But suddenly, he heard himself ask an honest question. "What are you talking about?" Jim lifted his head from his lap, where he was rubbing Carol's legs, and looked into her face. Her eyes were burning, but at the same time pleading. Her lips fought with each other, trying to dislodge the opponent, not noticing how her teeth were gnawing them from the inside. The wrinkles on her forehead turned her expression into the very picture of the expression, "You called yourself a milk mushroom, get into the back." "Jim, I will open up to you. I know what quality of person you are, and I am sure that you will never take advantage of me or harm me. And this is my problem. Jim, no one uses me at all, neither for good nor for harm. I'm like a shadow hanging on the wall in the background, just existing, becoming colder and less tangible. I am always present, but no one notices me. Nobody chooses me. But I see how everything happens. In the right company, I'm ready for anything. I keep my thoughts to myself, and I know I don't deserve you, but you're lonely, and the only thing you have is the ghost of a lost love. I'm lonely too. I'm devastated, and I have no one to be with. I don't even have a past love." Carol covered her face with her hands, making it clear that although she couldn't meet his gaze during her confession, she trusted him. "Jim, I can't take it anymore. I I went for a walk. I always go out on days when people need to have someone nearby. But this time I couldn't get rid of the melancholy. I was getting colder and colder, but from the inside, Jim. I'm afraid that my soul is finally fading away. I know you don't like your current life, but you have isolated yourself. You probably hate to hear it like this, but now it's true." Jim stood up abruptly. He decided it would be easier to just pick Carol up, rather than try to get her to stand on her stiff legs. He carried her down the hall and quickly entered the kitchen and sat her down on the kitchen counter next to the sink. He turned on the water to warm her up and asked, "Carol, you live a few miles from here. You covered this distance in this weather. What could make you do it?" She seemed to be focused only on him. Jim was sure she didn't even notice him carrying her here. Carol winced and replied, "Jim, you made a vow to a woman and then made a deal with God." "Yes, I know everything. You prayed to God to spare your wife, even if it meant losing her. She survived and you lost her." Carol peered at him, shaking her head in stunned disbelief. "I know. I can't believe you did this, but I know. I even follow you at work. It's not difficult for me. I'm a shadow, remember? I never left you. Not when Addie got back together with her first love, Rob. Not when you forgave her and helped her recover both in soul and body. Not when she left you, not during these 2 years after. I'm watching, Jim. When you can't interact, you look and you understand. You see both the good and the bad, and you realize which is which. You can do the same to me. I may seem like a gray mouse, but I always hoped to be beautiful. Maybe not like Eddie, but I still hoped. I never had anyone for whom I could be beautiful. Now I am a flower in the shade, without water, and winter has finally taken its toll. I need to be with someone, just clothes. And you, Jim, need someone to take care of. I saw and understood what you were doing. I see and understand what you need. I can give it to you, Jim, really. I don't usually say that much, but now I'm trying to explain. Jim, why don't we, on this day, at this time of year, be lonely and miserable? Together. I know you hold on to your loneliness, but I see and understand. You don't want it. It's just the best you think you can get. Jim, I understand. Although I'm not yet 30, no one has ever touched me. I've never even been kissed. I'm not asking you to do this, although, to be honest, I would appreciate it. I don't need my loneliness. This is a circumstance that I have to put up with. Jim wanted answers, and he got them, a lot of them. But they left him more confused than before. And Carol isn't done yet. I don't understand how Addie could make that choice or feel the way she did. Here's the bitter irony. She doesn't understand it herself. She knows that you are a better person and that you loved her more than Rob. You have proven that time after time. She is afraid to come to you or do anything for you. Yes, she deserves to suffer for what she did to you. But you don't refuse to move on to hurt her. You just don't understand your place in life anymore. Carol's eyes pleaded with Jim. Jim, it doesn't serve anything that you erase your life into nothing. If you die of this loneliness, your tribute to lost love will disappear with you. Live and honor the memory of a woman if you need to. As far as your deal with God is concerned, the price has already been paid. You don't need to pay any more. Jim checked the water in the sink, making sure it wasn't too hot for Carol's numb feet. Finally, the temperature was right. He closed the drain to get water. When he looked at Carol again, she still had words left. Please, Jim, you are a rare breed. If you cannot find your own path, then I will show it to you. I searched for an answer for a long time, and then it just fell into my hands when my shell finally cracked and collapsed. I may not be the answer for you, but at least I am a pointer in the right direction. Jim heard himself say. What? He twisted her ankles, turning her so that she was now sitting perpendicular to the sink. It might have looked tempting if she hadn't been buried in his winter jacket, still shivering with blue legs from the cold. Jim remembered that Carol had said that she had never been touched by a man, but she was not at all embarrassed that he had grabbed her legs. He felt like he was missing something important. He put her feet in the warm water and began to rub them again. When Jim looked up from her feet, he found himself face to face with Carol. She bit her lower lip. Leaning towards his ear, she whispered quietly, You protect, you help, you care, and yes, you love. These are your gifts, your superpowers. And while you are here, she tapped a finger on his chest near the heart. Living a deadly life sentence, you are not using these gifts to help others live. If you no longer believe that you can help anyone, just look at me. Please, I've never been desperate enough to tell anyone how much I'm suffering, Jim. But now I'm broken. I'm dying, and you know how it feels. I'm not asking you to save me forever, Jim. Just untie the ropes or pull me off the tracks. Then I can handle it myself. His expression took her breath away as he looked into her fiery eyes. It will still leave you deprived, won't it, Carol? Jim was completely mesmerized by her words. He couldn't say he expected this, because he didn't expect anything. She found a blank sheet of paper to write on. And he was this leaf, and he was eternally grateful for what she wrote. Perhaps, Jim, but no one knows the truth of my words better than you. To be deprived is to stay alive to serve something greater than myself, what I love. Jim, you serve love. I serve hope, but I lose it. I lose my hope. Please, Jim, can I just stay with you for a little while? Jim was angry with himself. Oh my God, I didn't mean that. I'm sorry, Carol, Forgive me. Of course you can. I was just trying to understand you, and you speak so beautifully that I was pleased to listen. I didn't want to leave you hanging over the abyss. Of course you can stay. Carol leaned over the sink and put her arm around his shoulders. Thank you, Jim, she sobbed. Oh God, thank you. You were my last glimmer of hope. I knew it had to stay with you. And I couldn't give up on you, Jim. Thank you. She began to shake. She continued to hold on to him, releasing all the accumulated emotions. Jim was amazed to realize how deeply this poor girl suffered. He felt ashamed that he had not noticed this earlier. Damn, he was too self-absorbed. Carol, what do you need? What do you want? Jim, if you want to light a fire and watch it, sing Christmas carols, share your pain, or slowly make love in front of the fireplace, that's okay with me. And no, Jim, no matter how lonely I am, I wouldn't settle for just anyone for the last one. I've seen how you interact with people, Jim. I saw how much you love. Even if you treated me in a way that most women would consider cruel, I would know that you had no such intention. I, I just want. No, I need someone to make me feel something, even if it's just companionship. You had a woman who didn't want your love. I have a life that doesn't want my company. I wanted to make you an offer, hoping that you would accept it with gratitude. Jim, I'm dying. I haven't had a man in my life since you lost Eddie and left. Even then, you were the man in my life. Your situation upset me so much that I even looked for company, but it seemed vulgar to me. I was so disappointed in love and its injustice that I even began to perceive my virginity as a burden. I just wanted to get rid of her. But even in this, I failed. I couldn't give myself away even in the most vulgar form. Could there be anything even more pathetic? Carol sat up straight, brushing her hair out of her face. Jim noticed that her hair was thick and strong, it just lacked a stylish cut. Carol put her hand into the filling sink to wash away her tears. She was still sobbing as she continued. When you moved away from everyone, what happened to you shocked more people than you can imagine. I don't want to put any more strain on your broken heart, but Jim, it was your heart that was broken, not your nature. Only by accepting your worth can you heal your heart. I can't promise it will be the same, but you will have a heart again. Isn't it worth trying to live again? Follow your nature, get back into life, start helping people again. Jim, I'm ready to beg. I'm so sorry to intrude on your life, but can I please stay all night? I'm used to being alone, but not in such emptiness. If you have someone coming, no problem, I'll go. Honestly, it will even cheer me up. I would be glad that the world is not as cold as it seems, but if there's no one, please, can I stay? I will pay any price, accept any sacrifice, and be grateful for it, just not to be alone. Jim felt sick with pity for this poor, kind creature, so soft and so mercilessly trampled. What's wrong with this world? Why does he seek to spoil his best fruits? He won't let this continue. Not this time. Not again. Carol, come in from the cold. I will protect you. His words contradicted his actions as he tried to free himself from her embrace in order to drain the cold water in the sink and refill it with warm water. When he finished, he immediately pulled her into his arms again to warm her and support her. Realizing that she was again in his arms, Carol trembled. Her throat was dry, and she was afraid to look him in the face for fear of giving herself away. She shook harder, squeezing him tighter. Through sobs, she croaked. I knew you would do this, Jim. I lost faith in this world, and after what happened to you, I lost hope that he could get better. The world seemed to slowly freeze, getting colder and colder until he died, too numb to even scream. Death from apathy. But there was one last hope. When I had no strength left to go further, you remained. Carol was crying, but she seemed happy. I lost my faith and my heart, but even shattered, broken, and seemingly crippled, you will still rise up to do the right thing, even to your detriment. Damn it, you've already done it. On those lonely family evenings, you think about her, don't you? You're thinking about Eddie. You drown in her memories, feeling her touch and love until you choke, and then you come to your senses to find that the pool has dried up. You are suffocating in search of even a drop of life-giving love, but you do not find one. Part of you loves these alone moments with her because in the memories, and there were so many good ones, you can still hold her close and never let her go. But tonight you gave up all that for a tear-stained, broken orphan because it was the right thing to do. Carol looked at his face. Jim's expression went blank, as if he had suddenly seen a ghost. He was shocked. How could she notice all this? How did she manage to express so clearly what eluded him in the chaotic fog of his thoughts? Carol tried to turn in his arms. Her arms slid under his arms, wrapping around his chest. Enjoying their entwined embrace, she pressed herself even closer to him. "You have filled my cup of faith, Jim. I may delay your walk down memory lane, but I will never ask you to erase from your memory a single moment spent with Addie, not a single precious second. I just don't want you to lose all the life and love you could have now because you obsessively hold on to the past. You can keep it in your heart forever, cherish it, return to it from time to time, but you cannot live in it. I wish I could tell you otherwise, but I can't. I will never ask you to stop loving Addie, Jim, but it's time to stop living for her." Jim was stunned. Everything matched down to the last detail. How had he not noticed this before? It was unusual for him to hide the bitter truth from himself. Maybe it wasn't hidden. Maybe he was just doing what he thought was right, being too close to the crash site to see the beauty of the road ahead. Carol looked scared. She made the most important decision of her life, gathering the courage to come to him that night. And now I felt that I had to bring this path to the end. But this required a leap into the unknown, requiring much more courage than her long, cold journey here through the snow. A man like you values honesty, even if the truth is the ugliest, cruelest, and merciless thing he has ever seen, even if she brings him to his knees. So here's my truth, Jim. Perhaps this goes beyond all boundaries, but why hide it? By hiding it, I betray its meaning. I promise that I will not force it on you, although I myself would wear it with pride. She took a deep breath, her eyes filling with tears. "I want to say God bless you, Jim. I admit I felt this way back when you were with Addie." Now the tears were flowing freely. "I've never been so scared, but I'm proud of what I'm about to say, because it will help you understand that I really, truly understand what you're going through without her. You will understand that you are not alone in your curse. Maybe this will allow you to take a few steps in her shoes, Jim. You have nothing to feel guilty about, although the situation is terribly awkward. Addie doesn't know how to be around you now. She would come back, but she just doesn't understand how to overcome the weight of her guilt towards you. The biggest tragedy is that all you want is just to be with her, even if Rob was with her." Tears welled up in Jim's eyes. He didn't know what Carol was going to say, but she undoubtedly understood the point. Carol whispered quietly to herself, "Okay, that's all." Her eyes flashed the brightest shade of cobalt blue he had ever seen them. Her face became an excruciating mixture of pain, anguish, and embarrassment. Jim wondered what was going on. Carol seemed to put all of herself into what she was about to say. "It's okay, Jim. I know you don't feel the same about me. I know how to choose. I fell in love with a man who loves a woman more than anyone has ever loved. And of course, this woman is not me." She took a deep breath, but her voice was shaking. "I have never known a better person than you. You walked through the gates of hell for Addie after ripping out your heart to forgive her. You healed your wife, and then gave her everything you had." Carol choked, struggling to say the words through her tears, only to discover that no matter how hard you try, the person your life revolves around simply doesn't want you the way you want them. Of course, there are intermediate stages between all or nothing extremes, but not for you when you are so committed. She looked at him pleadingly. "All I want you to understand is that you are not alone. And you don't have to be alone. The world needs you, Jim. Get back into it. You may not think so, but you are bigger than this whole world." She took a deep breath, her hands shaking. "Here's my proof." Carol was shaking all over. She pushed him away, covering her mouth with her hands. Then she straightened up, as if preparing for execution. "I love you, Jim." "Jim." I was stunned. I realized that her shivering was no longer caused by the cold. Carol was nervous. She blushed, then paled. She looked into my eyes, then looked away. I saw it crumble. I was so absorbed in her words that I did not notice her inner fire. She gave her all. She had been giving of herself for a long time. She was there when I was with Addie. And more importantly, she stayed by my side the entire time Addie was gone. I was too wrapped up in myself to notice. Today, she broke through my carefully constructed defenses and gave me food for thought. I unwittingly caused pain to this fragile but resilient creature who overcame wind and snow to reach my threshold and then revealed her soul to me. I committed a terrible sin. It didn't excuse Addie for her actions, but I began to understand her better. And it's all thanks to Carol, who sacrificed herself to bring me closer to understanding the losses my ex-wife caused me. In a way, albeit to a lesser extent, I had just done to Carol what Addie had done to me. I wasn't selfish. I did not pursue personal gain. My focus just wasn't where it needed to be. And the same words could have been said about my ex-wife until the moment her mistakes turned into conscious betrayal. That's when I lost her. Carol was still shaking. Her voice became tiny, broken. I admired her resilience. She broke through the barrier between me and Addie. It might have been a small one, but she saw how grateful I was. But she burned herself out by doing it. I have never felt so insignificant and so wrong in my life. Carol continued to tremble. Please think about it, about what I said and what I offer. Her voice was barely audible. I realized that I never responded to her confession. Carol put her heart into me, ripped it out of my chest to offer it to me, and I didn't even reach out. She looked down at the floor and forced herself to explain. In any form, to any degree you want, you can have my love, Jim. This has been true before, for years in fact, but because you gave me hope back, I can never stop feeling this way for you. I'm yours, you just have to ask. You can take as much of me as you want, or just a little. Just please, Jim, you have to understand one thing. You will never have to be alone again. I looked at Carol so intently that she seemed as if she might wither under my gaze. It was as if she was melting, although she was still trembling, and not only from foreboding. Her legs turned blue, her toes remained icy. Carol, thank you for what you did. It was a gift of unimaginable value, truly life-changing. It takes me a while to realize this. I'm stunned. I tilted my head, indicating that I was going to change the subject. You need to warm up. I think you should take a shower. She looked into my eyes with a silent question that I could not leave unanswered. I'm not trying to seduce you. Carol's lips twitched with sadness. Her eyes reflected a broken heart. I'm a strong person, but it was too much, too fast. I was awkwardly stalling for time. If I seduce you, you better be warm enough to feel it. I forced myself to smile at her. She pressed her forehead to mine. I will do as you say if you stay with me. Will you take a shower with me? How about I stay with you while you take a shower? I nodded. I'm scared to leave you alone while you're so cold. I'll do whatever you want, Jim. She looked at me with huge eyes full of hope. Carol brought out feelings in me that I hadn't felt in a long time. I was determined not to take advantage of her incredible vulnerability. She trusted me, and I couldn't let her down. I picked her up, causing her to sigh softly. Realizing that she had a chance to realize part of her dream, she wrapped her arms around my neck and hugged me tightly. I carried her upstairs. Her pupils dilated as she looked around my bedroom, through which we rushed to the bathroom. I carefully sat her down on the countertop, making sure she was stable, and then walked away to turn on the hot water in the clear-sided shower. The water would soon fill the room with steam, just what I hoped Carol needed. I walked back over to her, standing in front of her as she sat on the countertop. Carol, your clothes are all wet, I winced. You really need to get out of it. Carol sighed loudly. Oh, yes. But realizing that my gesture was more medical than loving, she blushed. Okay, redness will increase blood flow. She sheepishly tried to undo the buttons on her shirt, but her fingers were still too cold to work properly. I took her hands in mine, warming them. The last thing I want is to break your heart or trample on your dreams, but first we need to get you straightened out before we think about anything else. Fine. Carol nodded absently. I looked at her carefully, and although she did not fully understand, she gave as much consent as she could. Carol knew I had no intention of making love to her as I began to unbutton her shirt, but despite this, she moaned quietly as the fabric fell open. Her shirt was huge, not tight at all, more like a robe. She looked down at her pale, cold belly and wet bra, and then met my gaze again, hoping for approval. The alarm sirens went off in my head. She literally exploded with emotion right before I brought her here. We were both too vulnerable. I took my robe and threw it over her, creating a barrier between us. It was a huge, thick robe that I sometimes wore when I went out into the cool garden with a mug of coffee in the morning. Carol looked at me for a few seconds and then said quietly, "I understand that you may not be able to give me more, but please give me this. I've imagined this moment 1,000 times. Let me keep it in my memory." She threw off her robe and it slid to the floor. Carol leaned back against the wall behind her, indicating that she was allowing me to continue undressing her. I unclasped her bra. Her breathing became shallow as the fabric loosened. I put my fingers under the straps and slowly pulled the shirt off her shoulders. Then he repeated the same on the other side, carefully pulling the wet sleeve off her arm. I could support her fantasy while helping her get rid of her cold clothes. Once the wet cloth was free, I carefully placed it in the sink. Carol leaned back against the wall in surrender. She pulled her shoulders together, making it easier for me to take the next action. I wanted to do this right for her. I took the bra straps between my fingers and slowly pulled them forward. I let the fabric slide until she extended her arms to facilitate the process. Her eyes incessantly followed mine. When I took off my bra, I held it in front of me, blocking my view so as not to look at her naked breasts. When the straps reached her elbows, she jerked her arms away, completely freeing herself from her clothes. Carol now wore nothing above her waist. She could have covered her breasts with her arms, but instead she deliberately let them fall to her sides. Her breathing became heavy. I glanced at the robe, suggesting I could cover her again before I saw too much. She slowly shook her head. No. I dropped the bra to the floor, and her naked breasts appeared in front of me. They were wonderful. Carol saw the admiration on my face and couldn't help but moan. A blush quickly spread across her chest and neck, and her breathing became even heavier. Carol saw the emotions change on my face. She may have noticed my frustration, but she also saw my final destination, which delighted her. A quick thought flashed through my head comparing Carol's full breasts to Eddie's. Addie was a beautiful woman with large, perky breasts bouncing over her small waist and toned stomach. Carol's stomach was just as flat, although not as toned. Her breasts were half the size of Eddie's, but they were just as firm. And according to my memory, Carol craved my touch every bit as much as Eddie ever did. My comparison may have been a natural reaction, but I was immediately overcome by a wave of nausea. I really didn't want to compare Carol to Eddie. It was terrible, treacherous. Carol deserved better. Why the hell was I even thinking about Eddie? Then a wonderful thought struck me. I really didn't want to think about Eddie. I was instantly filled with joy and relief. First, I began to break free from Eddie's clutches. I've loved her for too long to just erase it all. And therefore, my love for her became my own prison, especially after she took away her affection for me to give it to another man. Secondly, although Addie was dazzlingly beautiful, it was Carol who completely captured my feelings at that moment. I was completely fascinated by what I saw. I found Carol incredibly beautiful, and the best thing is that Carol saw my delight and knew that it was absolutely sincere. Carol rushed towards me. Her lips pressed against mine, her hand wrapped around my back, pulling me towards her, and her other hand slid up, tangling her fingers in my hair. Damn, her hands were so cold. The poor thing was still suffering from the long walk in the freezing cold. Carol pulled away from my mouth and pressed her face to my shirt. Jim, She pulled away, looking into my eyes. She looked at me with such a strange expression that I lost my mind. I didn't try to stop what happened next, but I didn't give myself completely to it. Carol leaned towards me and our lips met in a tender, tender kiss. We exchanged quiet, sensual touches, feeling how the warmth of our hearts merged into a single whole. In this quiet moment, time seemed to stand still, giving us a feeling of closeness and mutual understanding. The hot steam shower created an atmosphere of solitude, as if emphasizing the depth of our feelings. At some point, Carol gently broke the kiss, clinging to me as if not wanting to let go of this magical moment filled with quiet tenderness and mutual support. God, Jim, I can't express my feelings. Then there was joy in her voice. I, I think that you are the only person in the world who could understand how I feel now. When I tried to pull away a little, Carol pressed herself even closer to me. I tried to calm her down. I'm not going anywhere, but you're still cold. She looked at me incredulously. You can't be serious. Carol was completely overcome with desire. She couldn't understand how I could still think about something else. You need to warm up. Your fingers are completely icy. Carol nodded, letting me know that I could do whatever I wanted with her. I made sure she understood that my main goal was to take care of her, not to take advantage of her weakness. The fact that I was thinking about her well-being and not about my desires caused her to sway back and lean against the wall. I pulled away for a moment to turn the water temperature down to a level that was acceptable for Carol. Her body was still too cold. The steam warmed the room quite strongly. Then I found myself in front of her again. My position was such that my body was between her legs, spread on the edge of the sink. I reached for the waistband of her jeans. "Oh yes, Jim," she begged. But her joy instantly faded when she noticed that I glanced quickly towards the shower. I pulled her clothes down to help keep her warm, not for anything else. "Sorry," Carol said quietly, making no attempt to hide her disappointment. Now, knowing that trying to preserve her modesty would upset her, I did not offer her my robe. I unbuttoned her jeans, unbuckled her belt, and began to take them off. The jeans fell to the floor with a quiet splash. I pushed the robe aside with my foot so it wouldn't get wet. The outside of her legs remained cool, but the inside exudes warmth. She wanted to find support to share this feeling. While removing her skinny jeans, I accidentally caught her underwear, revealing only the smallest detail. Carol was looking forward to the sequel, but I decided to leave it as is to maintain the mystery of the moment. I carefully helped her up, holding her close to me again. Carol wrapped her legs around my waist as we headed towards the shower stall. Stopping at the door, I opened it a little wider. Carol took a hesitant step onto the marble floor, and the flow of water softened the outline of her clothes, allowing them to change a little. Then she moved carefully, preparing to take the next step. Carol stood in front of me, trembling, completely naked. She was great. Now I did not compare anyone with anyone, but it is necessary to explain this point. I stepped into the shower, but stopped in time. Carol was disappointed at first, but when she saw my struggle and noticed how excited I was, she almost lost her balance. The realization that I was not allowing myself to take her because I cared about her overwhelmed her. Her eyes widened and lit up brightly. She was proud of me. She was excited. Taking pity on me, Carol took a step back, falling under the warm flow of water, weakening my temptation. She moaned, feeling both the warmth of the water and the tension of the moment. A new, yet familiar expression appeared on Carol's face. She tried to protect me. Feelings and emotions hit me like an avalanche. I could hardly keep up with them. Carol saw my confusion and resorted to a tried and true remedy that she knew could cool things down. She spoke. Conversation always ruins the atmosphere. And oh my God, what expressions flashed across her face. She was worried about me, but she was also thrilled that she was able to awaken such passion in me. She was sorry that I controlled my impulses, but at the same time she was proud that I could restrain them. She was very aware of the power she had over me, standing naked in front of me, and she understood that I was holding back to protect her. Although I was grateful for this respite, Carol quickly plunged me back into a whirlwind of emotions. "Jim, love has not left you. I've loved you for a long time. I never thought I would find love. And when I found you, you were married. Everything you did for Eddie only made my feelings stronger. But here she is wonderful, beautiful, smart, faithful. I was faithful too. I supported you, both of you, as a couple. I felt lonely, but at the same time warm." Carol leaned back, leaning against the far wall of the shower. She smiled at me as the water flowed down her body. "The love you had for her and the respect I had for her meant that there was a powerful force for good in the world." Sometimes it almost tore me apart. I understood that I had no chance to be with you. Eddie was stronger, and you both were faithful to each other. That's why I decided to be faithful to love, not to a person. It was painful, because it was a longing that could not be satisfied. But the world seemed right. It was not so cold. There was hope for all of us. Being lonely, but at the same time in love, was not as hopeless as being lonely without love at all. I think it all depends on perception. Perhaps it all comes down to the fact that a person who has no hope suddenly has it. Carol paused and looked worried before continuing. And then Addie ruined everything. I tried to stop her. God, how I tried. I couldn't understand it. Love was the very superpower that was supposed to save me, save us all. I couldn't believe that she would cheat, but I was sure that this superpower would still triumph in the end. And then, to my horror, I realized that everything was much worse. Her betrayal was also love. Everything changed. It was love against love. I could never imagine this. I thought that my situation was the limit of suffering that love is capable of. It found me, but I could not realize it. And now Addie finds herself caught up in a romantic civil war. This led to disaster. Everyone was in love, but there were too many partners. Someone had to lose. The outcome became more and more obvious. Addie saw it too. I made sure she realized it. Because of the steps she has already taken, even if you won, the person I love would still be hurt. If you lost, it would be even worse. In any case, you were doomed to suffer because of love. It was a perversion I had never thought of. After all, I loved unrequitedly, but the person I loved didn't even know about it, because I hid my feelings. But your situation was completely different. You didn't just drink from the cup of love, you bathed in its waters. And now you find yourself the only loyal participant in this unholy triangle. Your devotion has become an exile in the desert, where there is no more love left to sustain you. Carol was exhausted from reliving the whole situation while telling me. She looked at me with big eyes full of sympathy. You behaved incredibly, but you are dried out. You lack moisture. With every step you dry out more and more. You're still trying to be true to ideals and people who weren't true to you. You let Eddie go, but so did a big part of you, and now you're wasting away, and it's tearing me apart. Everyone can see the state you're in. It's like a slow death, Jim. You still put others before yourself. You still care. But it's been over 2 years, and you still have no spark. You're still not getting better. You had to come out of this, maybe not whole, but alive. We were silent, pondering Carol's words. She bit her lip and then continued in a slightly different direction. You spent your first Thanksgiving alone. Eddie broke up with you just 2 weeks before the day people express gratitude. Thanks for nothing. Carol wasn't just disappointed in Eddie, she was angry. Angry because she chose another man when she already had a loving husband. Angry for hurting you. Angry for doing things without thinking about the consequences. I realized that their friendship had suffered greatly. Carol seemed to be thinking the same thing because her anger subsided and she fell silent, not knowing how I would react. But Addie didn't get away with it either. That first Thanksgiving, she couldn't stay at her family's house. The father tried for the sake of the mother, but he was so sad and angry that he could not be in the same room with her. When Rob showed up as Addie had planned to reintroduce him into their family, it was the last straw for her mother as well. Addie's mother no longer tried to stop her husband from confronting Rob, only asking him not to harm him that could lead to trouble. We must give Addie's father credit. He did not touch Rob, but demanded an answer from him. He wanted to know why he had disgraced his daughter so much and hurt his son so much. By son, he meant me, making it clear that everything would not be settled quickly. This was a revelation for me. My former father-in-law and mother-in-law made it clear to me how much I was important to them, but Addie was their own daughter. They didn't try to talk me out of the divorce because they saw the tape of Addie telling me she was leaving for Rob. I had the opportunity to speak out, but only after everything happened. I was butchered before I realized I was in danger. There was simply no marriage left to return to. Addie made a terrible decision that led to a series of even worse decisions until disaster struck. She now had happiness with her soulmate, but it brought suffering to almost everyone who knew her. It didn't hurt me to realize that most people saw the situation the same way I did, but it didn't make me feel any better. I still lost. Carol told me more, saying, Rob and Addie left right after that. Even her heartbroken mother thought it best for her daughter to leave, saying she simply couldn't bear to see her with another man. 2 years passed, and her mother forced herself to keep in touch with her. She's trying really hard, Jim. You'd be proud of her. She sees Addie. She goes to your former house, which is now Addie and Rob's house, but never with her father. When he told you that he would never accept Addie's actions, it was not an empty phrase, but an expression of his true feelings. Knowing your attitude towards love, I doubt that you approve of this. You would tell him to serve love and see his daughter, even if it is hard for him. He is still faithful to you. He will never forgive Rob, although over time he will learn to tolerate him. The grandchildren will be difficult at first because of their parents, but over time they will heal the rift. After these words, concern flashed in Carol's eyes. I'm afraid to even think about how it will tear you apart, knowing that Addie will have children with another man. I've always believed in your devotion to love, but now it's killing you. It was this devotion that led you to spend that first Thanksgiving at an extended stay hotel. She's the reason you left the country for Christmas. Carol fell silent. Looking around, she continued. You found this place before your second Christmas alone. At least you had a home that holiday, even though it seemed empty at the time. She looked at me sadly and added, Oh yes, I know. You lived almost like a nomad. You had clothes, a computer, and a car. Valuables were kept at work. But by the holidays, your few things had not yet been delivered to your new home. You bought a chair, a bed, and a set of kitchen utensils in a box because you didn't get any furniture from Addie. This is how you spent your second Christmas, at home but alone. I know, I watched. I told myself that I wasn't acting like a stalker. I was just looking out for you. You sat in that new chair by the glass door, looking out into your new backyard. You were in exile, dedicated to love. All I could be grateful for was that you didn't do to Addie what I did to you. Sneak around, follow her. You didn't dwell on her loss, you just floundered alone, knowing that the person you love doesn't even sense your existence. It's the feeling of drowning, even if you haven't gone underwater yet. Jim, you've turned down every invitation to spend time with someone. You create your own loneliness, and this has become a pattern. You are the one for every birthday, for every holiday. You just had another dreary Thanksgiving, and now it's Christmas again, you're alone again. Since Addie broke up with you before the holidays, this second year without her means the third Christmas alone, the second in this house. You have legalized your seclusion. You're getting worse, and I'm afraid of what the new year will bring after the third lonely Christmas. My heart breaks for you. I know how painful it is to find true love and then be deprived of the opportunity to live it. But losing her, it must crush you. This must be 50 times more painful than what I feel. But Jim, love doesn't go away. She didn't leave you. You are killing yourself because of a false belief. I couldn't let you die. Not the way Addie did it. I raised my head sharply at these words. Carol spoke again heatedly. I couldn't stay away any longer. I didn't intend to come here. When I'm upset, I walk. I walk and think it seems much more vital than just sitting in a dark room. One is constructive, the other is simply a descent into melancholy. I should have explained it to you. To say that you may be here alone, but you are not alone. You are loved. Carol looked at me as if she was trying to see signs that her words were getting through. Her face was burning with emotion, but she did not notice how the streams of water from the shower washed her strong features. She didn't even blink. I thought about my employees who have become almost family to me. And damn, my ex-father-in-law and mother-in-law still cared about me a lot. I had to take difficult steps towards them. Carol, who had turned white from the cold, was now flushed with embarrassment and sincerity. I looked at her legs, the bluish-gray tint had disappeared, giving way to a deep pink. Carol interrupted my thoughts. I'm here, Jim. She looked away in shame. I'm an insignificant substitute for what you had, but I couldn't watch you fade away, watch you die. You are loved, and you don't have to be alone at Christmas, not again. Please let me help you, Jim, at least today, at least tomorrow for Christmas. Let me, just let me give you this holiday, Jim. It would also be my gift. I would have the memory of our Christmas to strengthen me in the remaining lonely days. She froze in painful hope. Can't you see that I love you? This thought had been hovering in the room since its unexpected appearance. Damn it, the very fact of her appearance screamed about it. I carefully took her hand, not tightly, but hoping it's warm. I thought about it and then asked, "And are you ready to remain alone for the rest of your days, having only this memory?" There's no word only in a memory like that, Jim. I love you and no one else, so I understand how much you miss Addie. Such a memory would mean that my love had found its embodiment, that I had realized it. I loved you for years without touching you. I know that it is better to feel love one day, even if you can't touch it again, than to never feel its sweet touch. Carol looked up and trembled at the force of my gaze. I didn't expect anyone to be able to understand what she just explained. Finally, I said, "Carol, I love Addie. Part of me will always love her." I fell silent again and then continued. "But now it's much less. You're right, Addie knew it would kill me. She should never have touched Rob. But she did it anyway, and then step by step she brought him to the point where she chose him completely and threw me out. There were too many betrayals in this chain of decisions. That night I told her, if I leave, I will never take her back, and I won't accept it. Never. Unfortunately, the knowledge that she would kill me for her own pleasure did not completely kill my love for her. I still love the Addie who was with me before Rob came back into her life. The one who still loved me. I couldn't kill this love, and I'm not sure I should." I sighed. "I'd like to put her aside because Addie has turned into a person I can't recognize. But how can you hide love on a shelf in the closet and move on with your life?" I tried to find the right words. "I still feel this love brightly, intensely. It is still part of me. My love was passionate, but somehow it faded away. I still feel it even though my mate is gone. It's like if my partner died. Love nourishes me while I live without it. I couldn't put it on shelves or hide it. I can't look at her from the outside because my couple is alive, happy and thriving because now she's with someone else. I think it's because I continue to feel that she hasn't left. She's still with me. But why? I didn't ask myself this question until you shed light on some points." Now Carol raised her head. I continued to explain. "Christmas, and even New Year if you're in love, is a time spent with your loved ones. I felt like I didn't belong with people in love at such moments because my story told me that love is imperfect and can die. For me, she did not die, although this is, of course, a confusing situation. I don't want to destroy someone else's faith in love. I don't think love is imperfect, although perhaps it is. But now I don't see Addie as perfect as I did before. Part of me will never be able to forgive her for what you already said. She let me die. She created the conditions under which I would die, pushed things forward, and then just let me die." I shook my head. I tried to use this terrible truth to move on. It hurts, but it's true. I want to move forward, but for some reason I always move in circles. Carol lit up. "What are you trying to tell me?" "That I couldn't realize my continued love for the past Addie because there was nothing to help me do it. There were no other landmarks in this landscape. I would go home and spend time with my lost love because that was all I had left, and there was plenty of it. I thought I had met and lost the great love of my life. Therefore, I could only step aside so as not to destroy anyone else's love. I had no choice in being an outcast, but I didn't have to live that role." "Perhaps you really had a great love, Jim." Carol looked longingly at the drain in her soul. I gently touched her chin, forcing her to look at me. I spoke, knowing how she was going to finish her thought. "Only I thought that this was all the love that was destined for me. It never even occurred to me that someone else could love me the same way. I didn't look for it and was sure that I would never experience anything like it again. But today you came to me and changed all that. Now I have something to put next to what I lost. Not for comparison, but to understand. What I considered lost, in fact, did not disappear anywhere. It simply acquired a new face. Isn't that what you came to tell me? Carol was confused. I guess I just didn't have any self-confidence. I didn't think you'd let me get what I wanted, or do what I suggested. Why did you risk being rejected, Carol? Why did you go through a near blizzard to hear him? Because you suffered. Because you were alone. Because you were dying, Jim. I nodded understandingly. Her heart began to beat wildly. I saw her thoughts flash. He understands. But there was one more phrase. You already said it. I was dying, and you. Her emotions overwhelmed her, and she blurted out, Jim, I love you. I had to do something. I had to reach you. You needed to be saved. She looked at me with hot sincerity. I couldn't let you die. Carol suddenly lost her breath. At first, she was taken aback, and then she felt an intense heat. I pulled her out of the shower and held her tightly to me. She gasped, trying to see my face, and finally gasped, as if there was a real miracle in front of her. She whispered, as if not believing what was happening. Oh my God, is this happening? I lowered my face and then fiercely pressed my lips to hers. She melted, but immediately squeezed me back with all the strength she could. She did it. She saved me, and more importantly, she knew what it meant to me. That she was special to me for coming, for taking care of me. It was stunning. It was wonderful. Carol got more than she could have hoped for, although she couldn't stop wanting more. After all, who can value love more than two people who found it, but could not keep it? Will such people not take care of each other and the gift that they received forever? Carol swallowed hard before speaking. I know you don't love me, and I know you're not one to take advantage of others, Jim. But just as much as you want to be in Addie's presence, I want to be around you. In those especially lonely moments, when loneliness is felt most strongly. As much as you want, and as much as you need, you don't have to be alone. And maybe me too. Her expression changed. I don't want to come between you and your memories of Addie, but in my darkest moments, I have to be better than literally nothing. Carol looked at me pleadingly, as if giving up her last hope. I watched as her cobalt blue eyes faded back to their normal color and then dimmed even more. She bowed her head to me, leaving me to decide her fate. She left herself no escape route. If I don't find value in her, all I can do is put her out of her misery. She put it all on the line. All or nothing. I tried to smile at her as warmly as possible. Issues of this kind are not resolved rashly. Carol, we will suffocate if we remain in this pair. I think you've already warmed up. Let's start this evening off right. There's a beautiful fire burning downstairs. It needs my attention. A whole glass wall opens out onto the garden and offers a wonderful view. Carol wanted more. She was disappointed. I didn't think she should have been disappointed. If I decided to have her right then and there, I truly believed that we would just end up suffocating as a couple. I picked up the robe. It was very good and very warm. I dried Carol and put the robe on her. She was embarrassed, thinking that she had failed to bring the situation to the end as best as possible, until I reminded her that our evening was just beginning and that neither of us was going anywhere. She perked up gratefully when I said, I don't want to save you from frostbite, only to then boil you alive. The robe was still wrapped tightly around her and not properly put on when I sat her wrapped in it on my bed. Her eyes widened when she realized where she was. She literally trembled. She carefully extended her hand to touch the bed, but immediately pulled it back. I took towels and began to dry her more thoroughly. I was gentle and saw quite a lot, while trying to strategically cover her with the robe. It seemed to me that Carol was ready to either cry or faint. She worked wonders on my shaky self-esteem. I needed to slow down a little again. This time I spoke as I continued to dry her. I bit the corner of my lip, looking at Carol appraisingly. Finally, he said, I would argue with you on some points. You know that I was not ready to take my own life, but you also know that I was very far from feeling normal. Or rather, it was far away. I have made noticeable improvements in some areas of my life. I have never been in financial trouble. I didn't rush out to buy a house right away. I needed to find one that I really needed. Yes, being alone is hell, but I didn't want to make it worse by trying to meet some standard of normality. When you are part of a couple, and then you are left alone, life becomes painful. Living in memories is like eating a bland dish instead of creating new moments. This is survival, not life. And dessert, in this case, is a constant comparison with what you no longer have. And comparison is a trap that is especially difficult to escape when you are alone. Carol just looked at me. She was both the personification of compassion and a protective warrior. How do we manage to turn ourselves inside out so skillfully? I put my hand on her shoulder over her thick robe, letting her know that I had finished drying her off. Carol barely noticeably leaned her shoulder into my palm. It was obvious that she would follow my example. To change the mood, I suggested, "Let's go down and do something that has never been done here before. I have very warm sheepskin blankets. They, it seems to me, give the room a cozy, cabin style. Let's spread them out in front of the fireplace and enjoy its warmth. I'll make us something hot to drink." Carol wanted to stay in my bedroom, feeling like she was in some kind of sacred space. She bit her lip when I pulled off my wet shirt, but immediately lowered her eyes when I put on a dry and warm one. She looked at me hungrily while I changed my clothes. I was once again overcome with emotion and physical excitement at having someone want me so much. Carol noticed my reaction and fell silent. I directed us down to the fireplace. I took the thick sheepskin blanket off the sofa and unrolled it in front of the fire. Carol looked at it hungrily. She looked from the blanket to me and back. I accidentally walked right into some kind of fantasy of hers, just like before when I sat her down on my bed. She fought her desires to give me the space I needed. I felt a change. I realized that here was a person who completely and unconditionally honors love. Carol stood a little hesitantly on the first blanket, examining the second, running her hand over it and sighing at its softness. She looked up at me, still full of worry. Taking the edge of the blanket, as if pointing me to something important, she said, "Jim, shed your melancholy like old skin and move forward." Obviously, she believed that my well-being depended on it. Carol, I was not ready for this. Healing wounds is a process, and it happens in different ways. It was not just my life that was broken, but my soul itself. It takes time to realize again that there is light in the world. At first you just feel it on your skin. Then you begin to perceive everything anew: the smells, the change of seasons, how winter gives way to spring. When you are already broken, when you are exhausted, it seems impossible to rise again to the height where you were before. I tried to be realistic. I didn't think I could reach the same heights. She sat down on the blanket and said with despair in her voice, "Jim, don't give up. You already do so much for others. You just need to look around." I covered her with a second sheepskin blanket. She sat with her legs tucked under her like a cat. After a hot shower, this room seemed cool. I sat down next to her, cross-legged, facing the fire. I added 2 good logs to the fireplace to make the flames burn hotter. "Carol, focus on the fact that I wanted to live and not on how pitifully I existed." Once I was able to enjoy the warmth again, I began to go out into the light. I have rediscovered my love for nature, just as I have rediscovered my appreciation for the people I work with and, indeed, live with. I nodded toward the window that overlooked my stunning backyard, essentially the front entrance to the state park. The flat clearing near the house turned into a wall of evergreen trees, behind which a slope began that rose to a height several times greater than my house. It was a natural amphitheater. I liked the plants and animals in this park, their appearance, texture, smells. I found this house while walking along the paths of the park. I liked it, and then I found out it was for sale. The more I learned about him, the more I was attracted to him. He stood in the market for a long time, as if he was waiting for me. Carol nodded. "The past always fights for control over the present," I continued. "The first Christmas in this house may have been lonely and sober, but that's when I started to feel at home again. And I haven't experienced this feeling since the night I left my last home. Sometimes it just takes time for the timing to get right." Carol was not happy. "But you are hiding. It's like you've reached the top and are now rolling back. Others see it too." I turned away from the fireplace, which was now burning again with an even, restored flame. I don't deny this. Living for the past means striving to preserve something that has already been thrown away. Living in the past is something sadder. I couldn't even live like that. My husband didn't die. I couldn't live with her spirit inside me. Eddie didn't want me anymore, didn't love me anymore. She gave the love that once belonged to me to someone else and literally threw me out into the cold. I was exiled from my past. There are always two in a dance. Perhaps unrequited love can be strong, but it does not live. I took it for granted that I would never find love again. I didn't see any future for myself. I lived day by day. I called my existence a life sentence, but I was still able to work and help others. My finest hour has passed. I saw no point in building a new life for myself. I couldn't appreciate the future, and with such an outlook, you can't build anything. I was silent for a moment then, glad that I could return to what I had said earlier. I explained. This is not life, but serving time. Carol nodded with a sad expression. I understand, Jim. I see where you are. Her eyes widened when she met mine, silencing her own thoughts mid-sentence. She would later explain that my eyes glowed brighter than they had for 2 years, and my smile was so warm, so happy. I know you understand, Carol. I should have seen this myself from the very beginning. Forgive me, I just couldn't realize it. Until you made your trek through the snow. You could have died if you twisted your ankle and got stuck there, or just spent more time in a snowstorm than your body could handle. You have had a huge influence on me. Carol felt a warmth spreading inside her. This changes everything, Carol. Now she was silent, completely absorbed in my words. What did I say? She felt a wave of anticipation, but she fought against hope, not daring to invest too much in it, because she had already received more than she dared to dream of. And yet, hope is not only irresistible, but sometimes insidious. Carol didn't want to turn victory into defeat, even if it wasn't the final victory she had prayed for. But something has changed. It seemed as if I was looking straight into her, seeing all of her. She felt uneasy until she realized she had invited this look. She longed for me to know her nature. Moreover, there was not a single part of her that she did not want to reveal to me, not even her imperfections. This thought made her feel hot. Carol, I didn't see the future because I didn't dare hope for new love. The great love I had has collapsed. You understand this because you lived in this state longer than I did. But now it seems that love has found me again strong and real. She suffered from afar for years. She always put the person she loved first, despite her own losses and difficulties. Your love has proven itself over all these years and then reached its apogee when you threw yourself into danger for the person you love. You risked your life to help me. Your love is strong, sincere, selfless, and real. Carol looked into my eyes, wanting to say so much, but she only whispered, Jim. I crawled under her blanket and took her hand. This new love that I didn't dare hope for is you. I feel it. You hid your feelings for so long until you decided that my life might be in danger. You revealed them not out of selfish hope, but out of concern for me. I fell silent. Carol, after everything that happened to me, I couldn't imagine investing in someone again. I couldn't even function at a level to think about it. But now, you fill all the voids inside of me. Now that my eyes have been opened, everything seems so natural. You are the unique one, the only one who suits me. My face lit up, as if I had found something incredibly valuable that I had never even dreamed of. It's like a dam breaking, Carol. I can't imagine anyone else filling those empty spaces. I was wandering in the dark, but now there is a light shining before me. I wasn't ready, and I had no intention of being ready. I didn't try. But now I understand. I waited for a reason. I've been waiting for you. I was overjoyed to know that I could make someone as happy as Carol made me. My life was so full, and then empty, cold, and dark. Carol pierced that darkness, illuminating my path. She filled the void and brought warmth again. She gave me love, and I knew instantly that I would give her back, because I wanted nothing more. I've always respected Carol, but now, realizing the following, I smiled in such a way that she could not help but notice. I didn't just respect her. I've always trusted her. I didn't find myself at a crossroads. One road simply ended, and a new one opened up in front of me. I lost the love of my life. I doubted my wife, then myself, and then doubted love itself. But now I saw the truth. Eddie was the only problem. There was nothing wrong with love itself. Moreover, there is nothing more beautiful than true love. And deep down, I was even glad that my ex found true love, even if not with me. The problem was never love. I just didn't want to put the blame on Eddie because I loved her. We protect those we love. But now it's time to face the truth and let go of what wasn't worth protecting. Carol showed me that people can be faithful and love can truly conquer all. I could invest in her, be vulnerable with what was left of me. I could open my heart to her. I knew that she would not take away my last, she would nurture it. I trusted her. I grabbed her roughly by the shoulders after so many years of cold. The sudden warmth felt like something new, and it didn't disappear. Carol, do you understand what love means to me? That I serve her unconditionally. I must have squeezed her too hard, but she hungrily absorbed my touch. She sobbed through her tears. Yes, Jim, I understand. Her lips trembled, trying to smile. Yes, I understand. Carol continued. Think about it, Jim. Think about me. You know who I am and what I am like. I'm not like Eddie. I will never share my affection with anyone else. We women are made for love, Jim, to create love, to give love, to care. But this world doesn't want my love. You understand what it's like to give all your love, and then discover that the person you loved wanted to receive it from someone else. Now all my love belongs to you. We have different characters, but we are made of the same material. Carol looked angry and confused. If there is some higher plan that determines your destiny, I have never been able to unravel it. How could this happen to you, the most worthy of us all, tireless even in the face of his own fall? How could Addie do this? How could she reject you after everything you've done for her? Eddie is still looking for answers to these questions. Jim, in this madness I saw parallels. I saw meaning, that last glimmer of light in the darkness, that last spark of hope that has not yet faded. And I went straight to her. As I got closer, I saw how many imperfect edges we have that match, how many things should connect, but aren't connecting yet. Carol involuntarily bit her lip. She was about to make herself vulnerable again. I feel everything very deeply. I'm not as beautiful as your ex-wife, but I just never had anyone worth blossoming for, someone to show off my beauty to. I can be so much more than what you see in front of you. You may see more than you think. Help me open up. Help me blossom. This is what you can do, Jim. She gasped when she heard my answer. I will help you as soon as you wish, but Carol, you are already incredibly beautiful. Carol let out a choked sob, repeatedly trying to choke out the words she so desperately wanted me to hear. If you want children, because she didn't give them to you, I will love our children as much as only God allows a woman to love. I will protect you and your future. And Jim, I will never betray you. I haven't done this until now, even without being yours. I couldn't be with another man once I realized what I felt for you, even if it led me to bitter loneliness. I never let you go. I mentally shook my head. Carol's situation was almost a mirror image of mine with Eddie, but in reverse. It was difficult for me to realize this. Instead of everything falling apart, I saw the pieces coming together. They filled me with hope and joy. Although this feeling was still weak and just beginning, I clearly recognized it, and I heard this call clearly. Carol spoke again, her voice sounding more confident, and the cobalt sparkle returning to her eyes as she looked into mine. Jim, people like us see the end result and live in its light. Others are scrambling with all their might to get to God knows where. We just need a person who is able to keep his word and someone who will allow us to love. Jim, you are already in my heart. Can I let it show? Will you eventually allow me to love you completely? If you'll just let me, I'll give you everything I have and everything I can ever become. Her eyes looked into the very depths of my soul, awakening something in me that was long lost. Carol, it never occurred to me. I was too focused on myself And now I understand that it was selfish. We become the best versions of ourselves when we put others before ourselves. I was a fool for living in the past. Now that you have made me open my eyes to the present, I believe you. Having known you for so many years, I really know what you are like. Yes, if you can get me out of this hell, do it. I have already become a part of it. I think I want someone to free me from these ruins. Dear Carol, I will gladly give everything that is left in me to the one who saves me. I looked at her so that she understood. I knew that only one person was capable of this. Carol's eyes lit up even brighter. Her face lit up with surprise. She was dazzlingly beautiful. I didn't understand why she considered herself a gray mouse, because outwardly she had not changed since she entered my house. I told her, "This is the most amazing thing. Everything that happened to me is now repeating itself, but in reverse." Her breath froze at the sudden intensity of my gaze. "Carol, I think I want to live again, to feel sunshine and happiness, even joy." "Carol, you've already gotten through to me. You're already doing this. We will go where you want, at the speed you choose. Just let's go together." I felt pleasantly warm. I haven't felt this for many years. Carol looked at me like a traveler who had long ago given up hope of finding a treasure, only to turn a corner and suddenly find it in front of him. It was too good to be true, but it was true. If we are moving at my speed, then we are following your course. And Jim. Yes, we don't need a perfect world. We never expected it. We just needed a small place for him to believe in, a small piece that would prove that the great picture we see is real. Thank you from the bottom of my heart, Jim, and Merry Christmas to you. You are no longer abandoned. We are both no longer abandoned. Her eyes shining a deep cobalt color again, Carol grabbed my hand and led me to the glass wall of the living room. A large piece of land bordering a forest was the perfect place to disappear from the human world. The view of nature was beautiful. Carol exclaimed joyfully, "Look, Jim, it's still snowing. Think about the purity of the snow." The fierce wind died down, and the snowfall was no longer as heavy as before. What recently seemed like a storm is now a magical winter landscape. Carol looked at me with deep determination, her cobalt eyes sparkling. She bit her lip, thinking hard, then closed her eyes, making a decision. Without taking her eyes off mine, she nodded towards the courtyard, behind the glass. "Take me there, Jim. Let's come out of the shadows and live in the light. I've been saving this feeling all my life. I have a huge supply of love, and all of it was waiting only for the one who would allow me to give it. This time you too will be equal in receiving love." I nodded, letting her know that I needed a moment. I quickly grabbed the warm blankets by the fireplace, ran out into the yard, and laid them out in a soft, open area. When I returned, I suggested to her, "Let me pick you up. I think this snow is meant for us, just like you were meant for me." Carol was stunned by my words. I could see it in her face. She had finally found the courage to face it all with one daring swing of the bat. She tried to honor all her dreams and loves in one moment of devotion from which there was no return, a momentary flash of faith. Instead of trading a future full of uncertainty for a single moment, no matter how perfect, it was a leap into the unknown, an all-in bet, living all future years for one single chance. Carol rushed to me in the storm, not expecting tomorrow, considering her attempt doomed to failure, but still deciding to honor her love. She traded a long but wounded life for a supernova of devotion right here and now. She took a risk and won. And suddenly, out of the certainty of failure, but the proof of love, a huge sky of realized potential opened before her as limitless and impressive as the yawning abyss into which she had just peered. Carol began to realize that her homemade flame would not consume her. On the contrary, having passed the test, she herself will become this fire, living her life in passion. The fire of her faith melted the cold of loneliness and dispersed the storm, leaving behind a reliable shelter. She was stunned by the realization that instead of the expected defeat, she had won. Suddenly, she found something she never thought she would find. Her long journey of loneliness was over. She rounded the last turn and saw that she had returned home. All that remained to be done was to open the gate and enter. The thought that she would get everything she dreamed of filled Carol's feelings, flooding her soul with light. The last echo of the past surfaced. Could this be true? I knew this feeling all too well because I had experienced it myself. The last demon of doubt was being exorcised. Its time had passed. Will you really take me, Jim? I mean, for real? Carol asked quietly, her knees shaking. Yes, Carr, I will take you whole, and I will give you all of myself in return. As you asked, you will spend the whole night, starting right now in the snow, and then we will warm up upstairs in the deep bath. I will take you as mine, and Carol, I will definitely keep you as my better, truer half. Unless you ask me, I will never let you go. Her eyes were wide open, and her voice trembled with excitement and hope. Jim, are you sure? You don't have to make that promise. Carr, you know me. I honor my obligations. I draw strength from them. For me, they are a blessing. You are right in everything you said. I feel it. This is the answer to all painful questions. This is exactly how it should be. We went through everything we had to go through to find this, together. We both know what the alternative was. I know you and you know me. We are both happy that we were given a future, that we were revived. It may not be easy to jump into life after so many years of being single, but I can't think of a better person to walk this path with. We saw each other hurt by what we thought was right. We have common values, common views. Who else, if not us, can create this happiness for us? We are already committed to each other and want the best for each other. Carol spoke out loud her feelings, addressing both me and herself. Oh God, to be with the one you love, and be free to love him openly, I want it so bad. I feel like this is becoming a reality, but I'm almost afraid to reach out and touch it. What if everything falls apart? I want to grab her and hug her, absorb her, plunge into her head, to be with the one you love. Carol shook her head, stunned by what was happening. This is a second chance for you, but a first for me. Maybe the word is not too poetic, but wow. How many people never find love, Carol? I smiled. I won't complain about my past. Experience makes us better. Thank you for saving me. I took her face in my hands, drowning in her eyes, feeling how she came to life, filling my heart. A feeling that I already knew would only grow over the years. Carol smiled mischievously, her eyes sparkling with electricity. Mutually, baby, that's all that remains of my attempt to speak beautifully. Then her gaze turned outward again. Jim, Snow, I've been waiting for this all my life. I was waiting for you. I don't want to rush things, but Jim, please. I picked her up. I carried her out to a secluded corner of the yard, where a new snow mattress was already waiting for us, and laid her down on the blankets. As soon as I lay down next to her, I covered us with blankets. It was the perfect start to our happily ever after. Some of you may think that Addie got away with her crime since I finally found happiness. But I never wanted to punish her by making myself unhappy. There comes a time when you just need to let go. If something dies, it needs to be buried, no matter how important it is. In fact, Addie paid a terrible price for leaving me the judgment of the city, friends, parents, and of course, her own guilt. Addie paid dearly for love, but she really loves Rob. If I had to give her advice, I would say that she did the right thing, because love is almost always worth the price you pay for it. I know this for sure. Carol and I went through incredible ordeals to finally find the love of my life. And yes, even though it seemed like the end of the world, even though it was the darkest time of our lives, love saved us in the end. And guess what? It was worth it. Last time I told you that love is worth even the pain of loss. Now I want to say, love comes in different forms. Love is the magic that can conquer everything. Sometimes we love someone from afar, realizing that this person will never know about our love, about the blessings we send to him, and will never reciprocate our love. But if we can love better, that's how we love. Love for a person, for an idea, for life, for everything that is greater than ourselves, is the cure for almost all wounds, even the loss of love. If you have found love, even bittersweet, hold her tight. She will become your companion and help you get through times that you cannot overcome alone. I sincerely wish you love in any of its manifestations. Best wishes and Merry Christmas. Jim and Carol. Subscribe to our channel so that your love doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think click to the next one.